PwC has released its Cities of Opportunity report for the African continent. At the desk with me now to discuss which cities excelled is Stanley Subramoney. He's from PwC. Good to have you with us today, Stanley.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much for the opportunity.
Fantastic. Now, I'm very proud. Johannesburg is one of those cities which is listed on the top 5. Maybe if you tell us what criteria first these kind of cities need to fulfill.
Well, thank you. Well, firstly, this is the first report that PwC has done on the African continent. So what we did was we surveyed 20 cities across the continent, east, west, south and central. And what we asked ourselves is that we put together a number of key questions. We had 29 variables under 4 main headings, and we asked the questions around infrastructure, around investments, around social and demographic, around human capital. And 4 of the top 5 cities comes from North Africa, and Johannesburg came up in the top 3. And when you look at it, those top cities, when you look at the top city in Africa is Cairo. Now Cairo started off in the 4th century, and Johannesburg, as we know, only came into being in 1886. So this is a wonderful accolade for the city of gold.
What's Cairo doing differently, though, that other counterparts across the continent need to learn from?
Well, as I said, in the 29 variables, we found that Cairo came up number 1, funny enough, on infrastructure. So they focused on infrastructure. It came across quite well in terms of the ease of doing business, but very expensive in the cost of doing business. So the variables that we decided, we put them into a computer system, and of course in terms of the scoring, Cairo came up number 1. It does not mean they're number 1 in every single area. So for example, the country that attracts the highest amount of foreign direct investment is Kenya, and Kenya ranks number 7 on that list.
Is there a correlation between the city of opportunity and, as you say, the level of foreign direct investment and the economic hub of that particular city?
There is a correlation between the opportunities and the economic hub and growth. But what we found is quite interesting is that the cities of opportunities generally attract good quality people. So good quality people are saying, where are the best cities on the continent? They've got the best infrastructure, the best communication, and certainly that drives the decision in terms of where should one live and where should one play.
Well, we know that from a business perspective it's working, and as you say, where should one live and where should one play? What about technology and innovation? Because you look abroad and you have cities where internet connectivity is all over. Is Africa anywhere near that yet?
Yes, I think one of the beauties of Africa is that Africa is new, and that we have the ability to leapfrog technology. I'm not saying that technology in Africa is world-class in every city, but when you look at Accra, Ghana is leading the technology stroke communication race.
Better than Kenya and
Absolutely,
Nairobi? Absolutely.
So in our survey, Accra comes as number 1. It's also the safest city in Africa, and it comes number 6 in the list, very closely linked to the 5th city, which is Algiers. So what we found that in the top 5, the scores that separate the top 5 is marginal versus the next 5. So these African cities have got a marginal difference amongst each other.
What was key to what you've highlighted in your responses is infrastructure, and we know that that's something that's continually lacking on the African continent. Are we seeing a significant pickup in infrastructure in certain new cities of opportunity that are developing? And if we are, who are the players? Is it government that's driving it, or more private sector investment?
Well, let me start by saying that the infrastructure deficit in Africa, across Africa, is estimated at $1 trillion over the next 10 years.
Sure.
So $93 billion of infrastructure spend is needed every year to close the infrastructure gap. The funding gap is estimated at $31 billion per annum. So we've got a need of 93 billion, we've got a funding gap of 31 billion. So there are some examples of excellence. Addis Ababa is leading the race when it comes to infrastructure investments, largely funded by the Chinese. If you go to Addis, you will see light rail, you'll see significant road infrastructure, significant construction activity. So you have pockets of excellence in terms of infrastructure spend. The DRC, it's a large country. It's the size of Western Europe. DRC has got major infrastructure. The cities are not connected relative to where it is. So there is a correlation between infrastructure and economic growth.
A correlation quite significant.
Very significant, yes.
What about international players? You've alluded to China and Addis. Are we seeing that these cities of opportunity manage to attract a lot of FDI, which you alluded to a moment ago?
Yes, as I said, Kenya by far is attracting the highest amount of foreign direct investment. Casablanca has got the highest number of top 500 listed companies. It's a great place to be, good infrastructure, and Casablanca comes out very high up in the terms of the human capital index. But FDI, funny enough, looks at various things. They look at opportunity. You know, capital is coward as well. So capital look at where the risk is and what the rewards are. So the higher the risk, capital look for higher rewards. So capital flows across the African continent is quite significant. Of course, when you look at economic growth, excluding South Africa, growth across the African continent averages at 5%. This is our time. It's Africa's time.
It's Africa's time. Just a quick one before we wrap things up. Are we finding that these cities of opportunity find that the property prices are obviously much higher than that of the other counterparts?
Absolutely. What we found that is in excess of 120 African cities that have got a population in excess of 500,000. We've got 47 African cities that have got a population of 1 million. But more fundamental and more transformative in the 21st century is the urbanization, the move from rural to urban. What this is doing is that it's putting pressure on properties, and certainly residential properties and commercial properties are seeing a significant climb.
Well, as you said, it's Africa's time, quite clearly, Stanley. Thank you so much for your time today and providing insights on your report. That was Stanley Subramoney, who's the head of strategy for Southern Africa at PwC.